Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to talk about Top Esports versus IG. If you are afraid of spoilers, then look away. If you want a quick summary of the 4-hour series, then stick around. So, a big question on everyone's mind is what makes LPL on paper better than everyone else? Well, I think the fundamental thing, something that was showcased in this particular best of 5, is that the rules of matchups always apply. When a team has stronger 2v2, it really matters. If someone has a stronger lane, it really matters. It changes the shape of the game. There is a level of higher aggression, higher risk taking, and more reward because of it. So of course there's a balance to it, but usually, the mechanical level of the players and recognition of how they need to impact specific lanes is very evident in the way the LPL plays. And I think this particular matchup really showcased just that, because it was a brawl. It was, what it came down to is, in my opinion, I think IG has one of the most stacked rosters individually ever. They have one of the most stacked rosters ever, but they just lack teamwork. They also lack a jungler that is cooperating super well together with the Shy and also Rookie. Jungle has been a problem for IG ever since the World Championship in 2018, which is surprising because Ning in that meta was just perfect. He just had it figured out. He was super strong. He won the MVP of the finals. He played super well. He had some inconsistent games at the World Championship. I'm sure people remember, but the bottom line is the Camille Zinzao meta. He was the king of it. And the 2v2 mid lane of Rookie and Ning was something to learn from, but that is something that was lost. It continued in spring, and IG won spring and went to MSI, and then everything kind of collapsed at MSI when they lost to Team Liquid in that best of 5, which to this day I think was a bit of a fluke in terms of what we saw of IG, because they were very dominant in spring in regular split, and they were also very dominant in the group stage in MSI, and they played way worse in that best of 5 against Team Liquid. Nevertheless, IG come in to this, of course, playoffs as the first seed. How come they lost? Well, I think there is a sense of greed with the way IG has played. We've seen them lose a couple of games that look plain silly. They always take these lane matchups that are very snowbally. Either like you snowball or you automatically lose the game. The Shy and Rookie are the players that can definitely pull it off, and they've managed to win games off of the back of how good they are. They are very good at team fighting, and then in terms of their macro, I think the Shy and Rookie have a very good eye for how much space they can take. But the key thing is they lack in teamwork. You never see this type of situation where they're making a TP play, they're roaming as a unit, they're using, pressure from lanes in order to transfer it to other lanes. They use pressure to gain advantages from their lanes alone. And usually, the highest level of teams, when we've seen IG lose against FPX in the past, it was always because FPX had the better team play. Doinb is the epitome of team play, and this is something that always wins out, and this was the case in this series today. Karsa and Knight, while I am not on the train that Knight is better than Rookie, I think it's fairly close, but I'm leaning towards Rookie, even with some of the things that we saw in this best of 5. The key thing for me is just that Knight and Karsa are way better 2v2 than Lian and Rookie. And that becomes an issue when the enemy team is willing to give up pressure in order to impact other lanes. And this is something that Top Esports definitely did. So let's start with the first game. The first game's draft was... Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. The first game's draft was interesting. I think IG is heavily favored here. We have, the bans I don't like to pay attention too much to, because I don't know what are considered target bans and so forth. Jarvan, Trundle is something that is considered by many teams very high prior jungle. It is first picked often and it has a very high win ratio. Jarvan for Aphelios, I assume Thresh, it was surprising because you want to pick Aphelios. These might be target bans, so I don't want to pay too much attention to them. Kalista, Lucian, I know they are target bans, and Varus is something that we've seen be dominant and something that Puff plays a lot. Nevertheless, Aphelios' first pick, this is a trade for Syndra. So Syndra is super, super high value, especially for rookie, right? He is probably the best Syndra in the world. Knight contesting him there. Syndra is a key pick for him. Top esports here, Misfortune Syndra, rotation, the trade is Aphelios Syndra. The continuation is Lee Sin LeBlanc for the 2v2. This is something that is super important because if LeBlanc is played in isolation against Syndra, 1v1 Syndra should win because she gets to use her E freely, and if she can use her E freely, then she's going to win. But in a case where she uses her E, she cannot dodge the Lee, and Lee and LeBlanc have the advantage that they can always choose when they fight. But Rek'Sai lock-in is, of course, very, very good. So this gives two esports a lot of opportunities into 2v2 mid because Rek'Sai can be strong into Lee, but it's not something that is like heavy in Syndra Rek'Sai's favor. The continuation is we have a lot of support bans, and top esports lock in Alistar. And this is where they go wrong, right? Morgana is a great pick into it. Alistar blind pick was a bit dangerous. I think the route to victory here was definitely looking for an Ornn fourth pick or looking to blind pick top and then fifth picking support, depending on your champion pool. But I think this series showed that the support of top esport doesn't have the deepest champion pool, and with all of these support bans, we see 5 already. He locks in Alistar blind and Morgana gets locked in, and also Ornn. So Ornn, right off the bat, gets a lot of value because the enemy team already have immobile targets. Usually how you want to beat Ornn is you want to have mobility. For example, Ezreal, LeBlanc and so forth. Misfortune Syndra aren't the greatest at dealing with Ornn, nor are they the greatest at killing Ornn. So here already there's a clear game plan. Aphelios Morgana gonna have prior bottom, IG can play 2v2 mid, and Ornn should just be isolated topside. Aatrox gets locked into it. And this was a game that started super well for IG. There was some trouble in the 2v2 mid, and it went kind of back and forth, but IG, for the most part, were in control. The Shy died a couple of times, but it didn't really matter because he's playing Ornn, and at the same time, Aphelios got monster fed. Puff had a great series. I know a lot of people looked at that Ezreal highlight and thought that JackeyLove completely took over the series, but I think the games JackeyLove played Misfortune and Alistar with his support, he definitely struggled. You know, he definitely struggled because of the draft, and also I think Puff also had a great series. I don't think we should take that away from him. Nevertheless, there was a key moment in this game where everything went to shit. So IG, if you look at this game state right now, if you look at this game state, you see IG is pushing up Nexus, JackeyLove is dead, you see Knight is low HP, and IG are ahead, 2-2 for Dragons, Mountain is spawning, Baron is also spawning. If IG chose to back off here, they can easily set something up around Nashor and, of course, close out the game in incredible fashion. But instead, we had this play, the continuation here. We see Ornn getting caught on the turret, needs to flash out. Leon tries to save him. Leon dies. Leon Lee Sin was kind of oof. Not the greatest. Karsa forces the flash of Puff for his own death. And here we have the continuation where Knight plays it beautifully. WQ on, of course, Puff. There's no black shield. Here is Knight's beautiful QE. Oh, it was an EQ, sorry. Some Syndra is going to be saying, this is not QE. Nevertheless, Nashor is spawning. Top Esports is pinging it. And this is the play that changed the game completely. And this was IG throwing away game 1. Draft was better, play was better, and Top Esports still showed some signs of a stronger 2v2 in this particular game. Still, Rookie, without the support of his jungle, still managed to pull some stuff off. Okay, let's move on to game number 2. So game number two, let me just make sure so you guys can see the draft. That looks about right. Okay, this was game number 2. So the draft is IG, after that one Ornn game where the Shy got camped and died a couple of times, decided to ban Ornn on blue, which is very surprising because they're trading Trundle ban for Ornn ban. So they are first picking Trundle and they're banning Ornn. So that is a big question mark ping, right? Very, very big question mark ping. You ban Ornn to first pick Trundle, and then enemy team gets Syndra Aphelios. So we mentioned before, these are very, very high prior picks. In LPL, they aren't the type of teams, especially IG isn't the type of team to construe a draft that is centered around beating Aphelios. They centered their drafts around beating the enemy team in lane and then, snowball from there. So giving up Syndra Aphelios for Trundle, sure, Trundle pillars are going to have some value, and the consideration for Trundle is super, super high because it nullifies some of the picks that you want to pick in bottom or also in top. And Trundle is okay in the jungle and has a relatively high win ratio, and everyone has priority on it. But banning Ornn to give Syndra Aphelios is kind of odd to me. And if Rookie is not playing Echo into Syndra, then something must be up with it, So we need to take this as a signal. This is the second game in a row that Knight gets Syndra, and it's going to become a massive problem as the series progresses. In the previous game, they took away Lee. It was a denial from Karsa. They could have, of course, locked in Lee if they wanted to instead of Misfortune, pick Misfortune third, but they wanted to leave the potential support pick counter and also top counter on third if something came to it, because if they don't pick MF, maybe they need to pick MF third and it becomes awkward. Nevertheless, Orianna locking into Syndra is a full skill matchup. Syndra is favored. Orianna, she needs to buy Mercury, she needs to play on Q, she needs to maybe, she needs to dodge a shit ton of Qs, and then maybe she can win. It's a very, very heavy skill centered matchup. Senna gets locked in, something that was surprising that we didn't see in LCK and so forth. Senna Trundle is also something that can be played bottom, so there was some option here that they could potentially look to, send Lee into some other lane. Send Trundle into the other lane and then picking a counter into Lee. Nevertheless, first three, I heavily favor Syndra Aphelios Lee Sin. I think it's better. Senna still is quite juicy for me, but I'm not too much on that Trundle train. I'm not on the Trundle train. Orianna also, I'm not on her train because her train barely exists. They barely sell tickets. It's a ghost town, that train. Okay. Fourth pick, Karma. So Karma Aphelios bottom, and you decide to pick Tahm into it. Very, very surprising. There is very little reason to pick Tahm here. I think you can pick other options and you can scale better. It was surprising that Tahm gets locked into Karma. Karma is considered a good pick into Tahm most of the time, and Aphelios Karma is definitely going to be happy in this lane. And then we have the Jace blind pick. So you ban Ornn, pick Trundle, and then blind pick Jace. So already, you're pretty, Jace is very reliant on having a good jungler, and Trundle is not a great jungler to play with Jace because the itemization of enemy top lane is going to be super good. Jace is something that needs to snowball, needs to do well. We know and love Jace the Shy. We like it, we love it, we respect it, but there is a certain degree of risk here because you're blind picking it. Ornn is banned, so maybe the Ornn ban was kind of like, oh, we're gonna just blind pick Jace second wave. This is the plan here. I think they shouldn't have given up on Ornn, and I think giving up Syndra is a mistake that they paid very dearly for. They could have gone for another LeBlanc game. I think Trundle LeBlanc, you have some options as well in the 2v2, but I think this is a very, very difficult game to execute from the get-go because Aphelios Karma is going to have prio. 2v2 is much better for Syndra Lee, and Renekton, if he gets one kill in this top matchup, it's just game over for Jace. Jace is going to be in trouble because Trundle is not going to recover. Ninja Tabi value is way too high. A key moment in this game, top esports is favored for those who couldn't figure that out. Much love, no flame intended. The key moment for this game was right here. So it kind of set the story of the game. First, I wanted to show bottom to just highlight that the matchup is indeed very tough because Tahm needs to be the one farming. Tahm needs to walk up, and when Tahm is walking on the wave, he eats Karma Qs and Aphelios hits for free. It's very difficult for Tahm Kench to farm in this lane. It's close to impossible. That's why it's so weird that Tahm gets locked in here. This is a consideration where you even maybe lock in a traditional AD carry. You just lock in Ezreal, you play Ezreal Senna, you see Karma Aphelios. But of course, they could do some shenanigans where they put Karma top into Jace, and then they pick another support. But I think Ezreal Senna, most of the time, you'll be fine. And Karma is going to hard lose against Jace. So you were good there. You were good. Nevertheless, we continue rolling the clip because it starts so perfectly here. Level 6 here, all in on mid. This was a thing of beauty because Rookie was playing on his level 6. This was so beautiful because the HP level that Rookie is at when you look at this point, it was very, very difficult to look at this map state and think that he's going to get a kill. He's getting pushed in, and right before, Rookie was getting ganked by Karsa, and it was it was tricky for him, and then he pulls out the solo kill here with the turret shot. Was very, very nice. Knight lost his flash earlier to a gank. And this is here another showcasing that it's just beautiful how this replay lines up perfectly for everything I want to highlight about the game. Trundle is going for this force on top. Karsa is just around the corner. Karsa has better items for this all-in. Sure, you can red smite, and you can consider that maybe red smite is better than double longsword, but Karsa is level 5, so I think that settles the debate. 369 also has ultimate. 369 had a very, very good series, but the early levels were hard for him. Lee Sin was showing a lot on mid lane, and Jace managed to get a full executioner into cloth armor. So of course here in this position, Jace has advantage. But right now, the Shy has no mana. Trundle's walking in here, and he's going in wild, and Renekton, of course, has ultimate. And this is another showcasing of why it seems so awkward, the synergy between the jungle and the solo lanes, which is very, very rough to see, considering I still believe the Shy and Rookie are contesting for the best player in their position. They just happen to have a jungler that doesn't seem to mesh well with them. So we're going to roll the clip here. We're going to do it in this speed. So 369 is, of course, baiting. He has full rage. There's the ult. And there we go. And then we get the fat Q. Very well played here by 369. And then I keep thinking of Takashi 369 when I see this. And we know the story of Jace. I mentioned it before. You die once in such a fashion, it's going to be tough for you. And this is going to snowball Lee and Renekton out of control. Lee is going to impact the mid 2v2. We also know that Rookie burned 2 summoners here on the solo kill mid lane, which is something he's going to regret now, because Lee is going to, of course, come down mid lane and come to kick him. It's very, very easy for him to pull off. And, you know, the greatest love, you know, the beauty of IG games is that there is so much action most of the time in top side, mid side, that bot lane is kind of fending for itself in a lot of cases, right? There's so much action going on, which means that this Karma Philios then get to do whatever they want. Here we have Karsa straight into mid lane, beautiful, looking for that kick, looking for that punish. Orianna shorter range than Syndra, of course. The E range is always going to be a threat, and there we go. There's the one shot with the QR, and this is what is going to cement the game as game over. Okay, beautiful. We move on to the next game, game number 3. So this was an IG victory. This was an IG victory. Let me just try to center it beautifully. Okay, that looks nice. So I mentioned how Lian most of the time had rough games. Qiyana was something that he had success with earlier on in the split. Aphelios, IG just went back to the original draft, meaning that they banned Trundle and banned Ornn, first pick Aphelios. Aphelios was a menace the previous game. Jackie Love was definitely the more useful AD carry. Aphelios gets locked in. Syndra, Misfortune, same trade. This time around, IG did not lock in Lee. They went LeBlanc, Nautilus. Nautilus was something that was banned second wave. And then Alistar gets locked in here too, which is surprising because I think Alistar struggles super much against Nautilus. If you get hooked by Alistar, by Nautilus, you actually get popped early levels, and it is a rough matchup, to say the least. You know, this is not a winning matchup for Alistar, so it's surprising to see it picked here. I think if you want something scaling, it's better to go for a Taric, but you could argue that Alistar is better against LeBlanc than Taric, but both are kind of bad against LeBlanc because you can easily avoid any combos. But, of course, here, LeBlanc into Syndra, very important. Once again, the same thing stands for Syndra. This time around, Qiyana, jungle, Lian, Aatrox also top instead of the Jace, which is something that can fend a bit more for himself. This particular game, Lian actually outperformed Karsa, and it showed so hard in the game that was played. He got the kill on bottom side, they got a double kill, Qiyana got to snowball, she got the jungle item, and then when IG get to transfer into mid game, where Aatrox and LeBlanc, meaning Shy and Rookie, are healthy, they control so much space. The way they impact the mid game through side lane is a thing of beauty, and it's something that is difficult to describe in words. It's something that I just wish that everyone would look at, because the way they controlled space and how they put top esports in a position where they could farm as little as possible and found punishments after punishment was definitely a thing to behold. And looking at this particular game, the two moments that I wanted to highlight, because I think Rookie did this beautifully, is this moment. So you have a little moment around here. Is it here? I don't know if this is correct. This doesn't look correct. Let me go back. I think we have to go back a little bit. So this was very, very nice. So Rookie finds the snipe here onto Jackie Love. He's trying to farm his creeps. He gets deaded there. And then another one. Another one. Rookie has just been fishing for Jackie Love on that side lane, and boom. So if you want to look in depth more about how as a solo laner you can control space more and really, really suffocate your enemy, this is the way. Because IG is not, they don't have some crazy teamfight composition. They have a composition, they have the true definition of a pick comp. They are pushing in the side lanes, and then they are truly, truly cutting you in half. And this is something that is very, very frustrating to deal with, because I remember even scrimming against IG how well they did this. And I really, really want to highlight that IG as a team, when they get out of early game without bleeding bad, macro-wise, they are very, very strong. They play the type of macro that requires really, really good individual sense. Rarely do you see Rookie and the Shy die on side lanes. Top Esports as a team, what they did beautifully was they contested super, super well individually. I don't think there was a massive gap individually. I think they contested, they did well. You could argue that Knight had the better series. 369 also played super, super well. Karsa played amazingly well. And I think on an individual level, Top Esports definitely could contest. And the key differential was how they executed on 2v2 mid and how they were supporting each other in the early game to transition themselves into a position where they're going to be better. IG though, sometimes around 25-minute mark, 30-minute mark, they take some decisions that are a bit too greedy and they lose fights, which is rough to watch. But this was the only game that IG actually won. Okay. And then if we finalize the thoughts around the draft, I think the key thing was that Kiana found efficiency and Aphelios got super far ahead. I think Misfortune Alistar does not belong. Two games that they played Misfortune Alistar were very, very ineffective. And I think this was a blunder. I think Renekton into Aatrox. Renekton didn't get too much out of the matchup. And this was one moment where the Shy was better, for sure. Okay, final game in the coffin. Boom, 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 boom. So this one kind of reminded me of the Shy Kale. And the Shy Kale is not something that you want to remember if you're a The Shy fan. But let me just find a way to put this nicely. Okay, so this final draft, we have Top Esports once again Syndra. Now that was a big question mark, right? Was it a mistake that they gave Syndra to Knight 4 times in a row, and their answer to it was LeBlanc over Nova? Seemed like Rookie was happy in this, and he showed that it works. But it puts into question if they should have and they were supposed to lock in Syndra first instead of Aphelios. But Aphelios also got value, so it's hard to say that it was wrong, because there was a game where LeBlanc actually worked. They punished the Misfortune. Aphelios was indeed ahead. Game 1, they could have won. Nevertheless, Trundle gets locked in, Syndra, Trundle, LeBlanc, that's the trade. Aphelios gets banned, so Syndra is first picked. They are thinking Aphelios has higher prior, Varus trash, a lot of AD carry bans here. But evidently, Top Esports had no success with Misfortune, so he didn't want to play it. Also picking Misfortune into LeBlanc as Trundle is just something that you don't want to do, because both champions interact super well with you. So they lock in the Ezreal and the Lee Sin cast a special. Syndra, Lee Sin, almost guaranteed here are going to be stronger on the 2v2 mid, something that was so important for Top Esports success. Caitlyn gets locked in, was very unique. I was surprised by this, but this is something that also, in this game, IG got 2v2 bottom solo kill. Nautilus Blitzcrank gets banned. Two champions that are quite decent into Kate. They lock in Karma blind. Unique. Leona gets locked in, but Caitlyn has an easier time playing against Leona because of she has long range and keeping distance is easier. Right? And the games have been so explosive around Soul lanes, so the lanes that are 2v2 tournament winning tend to do super well. And Caitlyn Karma didn't get ahead in this game and were in a very good state. Aatrox blind, and then here the big blunder. Cannon. So the Shy, Cannon is his most played, and he's played Cannon beautifully. But I don't think Cannon is a counter to Aatrox. I think it's very hard to get ahead, and when you have someone on side that needs to itemize AP and doesn't have any sustain, you're just gonna lose. You're just gonna lose. Cannon needs to be so far ahead against Aatrox, and if there's any interaction from anything in this game, then Cannon will just be out. And that's exactly what happened. In this game, Syndra, Lee Sin managed to find Prio in the mid 2v2. They dove Cannon once, and all of a sudden Aatrox took over the whole matchup. LeBlanc was in a decent state. Caitlyn Karma were very far ahead, but Cannon was just too damn useless. And the biggest issue here is, if you want to play on side with LeBlanc, Aatrox is already itemizing magic resistance because that is what is going to make him win against Cannon, and that is going to also put him in a position where he's going to skew the itemization of LeBlanc. If Aatrox buys MR, he's going to beat most magic damage dealing champions in top lane, because buying Morello is very awkward against a target that buys MR. You need Void Staff, you need Grievous Wounds. It's terrible. Aatrox is fantastic against AP champions that want to split. In this case, imagine a world where they lock in Renekton. It would fit everything. Renekton would do well into Aatrox. Aatrox needs to buy Ninja Tabi to beat Renekton on side. Renekton would work better. You can even lock in something like Kled. Doesn't have synergy with Trundle, but honestly, I think with the level of the players, I think the Shy could pull something off like that. Right? So to me, this was very surprising. Picking Cannon puts LeBlanc at a significant disadvantage. Cannon was just a massive anchor, and the Shy didn't have the greatest game of his life. I think the Cannon lock-in really made this game very difficult. So I mentioned, we had the better teamwork from Top Esports, way better. They managed to find the dive in top. Cannon died. Beautiful. Cannon was behind. And then we had a little situation here where I'll show you guys this little replay that I looked up. So this is, doesn't mean much, right? But this is usually the conclusion when the enemy team is in such a poor state. It was quite terrible. Before, there was some 2v2s around mid lane. I can show you guys that too, for those who are interested. I like it a lot. Rookie was playing his matchups beautifully, honestly. Here's the first kill. You saw Knight. And the stun doesn't land, but the last auto kills him. So that was the little dive I spoke about. Trundle killed Syndra on mid, and LeBlanc survived, but Trundle died, so it was a 1-for-1. So Lee Sin is in a very good state for 2v2 mid. He's already 6, Leon is level 4, so he kind of sacked himself. Syndra's super happy because if Lee is ahead, she's also going to be strong, because the way Top Esports play is they play super well together. Karsa and Knight synergy is beautiful, very beautiful, and I'm super excited to see Top Esports versus FPX, because stylistically these two teams are very similar. It's going to be fireworks around mid lane. There were fireworks already around mid lane here, but there's going to be even more, because Doinby and Tian definitely have a great eye for this, and I don't think Leon has the greatest eye for it. Okay, I wanted to showcase the Trundle death. Karsa is super strong. Knight burns 2 summoners. LeBlanc 2-for-2 here. Lee burns flash. Syndra burns flash. Syndra flash is very valuable here, right? Because she's playing against Trundle and LeBlanc, so it's very dangerous for her. Karsa starts us off because Syndra stays and LeBlanc bases. Aatrox has full prio on top side, and Cannon is getting giga bullied. You see that Caitlyn Karma got a 2v2 kill as well, as I mentioned before. Trying to find the next Trundle death. There was a big explosion that happened. So this was very, very silly. You see, he's going for Raptors. He's going for Raptors. He just wants the big one. And this was a massive throw. This is just such a poor read on the situation. Kaz is looking to Q, but Trundle already flashed. Look, Trundle flashed, but he gets Q'd anyway. And it was a massive, massive throw here. Southwind no flash as well from the 2v2 on bottom. And this was a massive throw. This was a very, very big throw. And then on top of this, what happened was Aatrox sets up a situation where he dives top. And this is such a clutch moment because you want to recover somewhat with Ignite, but he didn't. He used Ignite here, died on the turret, lost a lot of money and CS, and this is just going to get worse from here for Cannon. Much, much worse. If you're behind in this matchup, it's a disaster. Aatrox is going to take over the whole game. This game was a lot of back and forth up until a key moment. So Aatrox is super strong in this key moment that I'm showcasing here. Cannon is very far behind. Karsa, known for playing a bit worse in bigger games. This kind of showcased that because it was kind of silly what he did. But I want just to pay attention to the scoreboard because Caitlyn Karma state of the game is very good. Mikhails is finished. Caitlyn 2 items versus Ezreal 2 items. Usually Ezreal, the strength he has, he's ahead of the curve, right? If Caitlyn reaches 3 items, she's going to be super, super strong. LeBlanc is doing fine for himself. Cannon is a disaster. I just wanted to bring this up because I was happily surprised by the Kate. Nevertheless, the fight is on, and this is the moment in the game where Ezreal is going to be strongest than everyone. If you have a crit AD carry, these are the type of fights you want to avoid, because even if Caitlyn is so far ahead, Ezreal's items are just way more powerful. Third item, Caitlyn is going to begin to catch up, but this is the moment where Ezreal truly, truly shines. And that's why it's so easy to play him weak side, because the spike that he's going to achieve there on Muramana Trinity Force, it will happen at around similar gold timings anyway, and Muramana stacking is a question of time, not about gold, right? So this fight happened. Karsa inted it a little bit. That's how it starts. Karsa ints it. He's smoking some good kush. He flashes out. Liam flashes after, and he dies. Knight gets popped as well. So already from the get-go, it looks kind of like a disaster if IG can get out of this fight. We have a flash out. Liam gets pulled in, and IG could easily walk away from this. This is something that is a problem for IG. They tend to be very, very over-aggressive with fights, similar to maybe a G2 of the past, right? But usually those are the teams that pull off those team fight god moments. Sometimes you have silliness as well. They can easily walk away. This was not the time to continue to fight. But this is where Jackie Love deservedly got a lot of praise for the situation. Even here, if they leave Southwind, there's no problem. They walk in. Jackie Love with the dash over the wall, beautiful auto, and then the beautiful Q here that lands on the Shy's head and a triple. And the Ezreal that was behind is now ahead because of these these kills. At least he's even. There was also a moment where he got full platings on bottom, so he has 720 gold for platings because they used Herald on bottom and Caitlyn was forced to TP out. But I don't want to highlight that moment. I just wanted to bring up this Jackie Love. Beautiful Jackie Love play, and taking this Nashor, of course, cements the game for top esports. IG were pushing back a little bit, but look at that. Ooh, thing of beauty. So to summarize the series, because that's what we're here for, to summarize the series in 34 minutes. There was some draft problems, some good things in drafts, something that we can learn. I like the Caitlyn, I like the Karma. The Tahm Kench blind pick was a disaster. Giving up Syndra was a question mark. Ophelia super strong, especially in environments where teams are not so willing to draft for the comp. More they are drafting for the lane. This is the trend of the LPL. Sin to win, as we've heard many times. IG, I think the Shy had some rough games. He didn't look in form today. 369 played super well. Karsa was the way better jungler. Lian, when he fell behind, looked a lot worse. He had a good Kiana game. I think Rookie played super well. I don't think this settles the debate of who is the best mid laner, because I think Rookie has just a higher level of consistency, and I want to see Knight be good over a longer term. But Knight and Karsa's cooperation is way better. The teamwork in top esports is just way better, and that won out today. And I think on an individual level, they matched up well. There was no significant disadvantage. And I think IG, the issues of IG have been highlighted to us throughout the split, throughout the last year as well. It's always the same. Jungle synergy has been completely off. And at the same time, their drafts tend to get very greedy, as we saw in game 2. So hopefully you guys learned something from this video. I had a lot of fun watching this series. I wish you all the best. Thank you, and take care. Meow.